This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, the old Citizen Net reporter, here with the Dean of Journalism in the city of White Plains, Jim Benerofe. And this is White Plains Week. Jim, what happened this week?
And here are the headlines for the White Plains Week of November 15th, 2019. New media investment group to buy Gannett Papers. It's official. Veterans Day bathes city in summertime temperatures and melancholy memories and says a warm farewell. Venice, the Queen of Adriatic, has worst flood in 50 years, 6 feet of water in St. Mark's Square. Rockefeller Center gets its Christmas tree, but do we really feel good about it? Pollinators, more pollinating plants in White Plains. French American School of New York has no interest in building on Old Ridgeway, sources say. Should Common Council buy property back? As we speak, city officials are breaking ground for a second building at Winbrook. 3 more buildings to go. The Service Employees International Union stages a rally in front of 1 to 3 Barker Avenue, claiming building owners stonewalling wage demands. Assemblywoman Amy Paulin endorses her colleague David Buchwald for Congresswoman Nita Lowey's seat. The primary, if necessary, is June 23rd. The Trump impeachment hearing starts, a distraction going nowhere.
Thank you, James. And now we go to the White Plains Week video newsreel, March of Time. And that is the sun setting on Veterans Day in Playland. And it was absolutely glorious day. The city of White Plains had a ceremony on the City Hall steps, and Walter J. Brady, a Vietnam veteran, spoke, and you can see that ceremony on the White Plains government channel. And just go on that channel 75, and look for it. It's a meaningful ceremony. I could not attend due to another commitment, but at this point, it was just a glorious day. But the top story of tonight, as we're doing the show, is this. Yes, sirree. Press lords capture Gannett, finally. And that story was confirmed yesterday by press releases from the new media group, which is acquiring Gannett, and for $1.1 billion in the final stages of the deal, and they plan big changes. They plan to cut costs of $300 million. Jim, what do you make of this?
Well, I don't know how they're going to do. I think that big of a chain is cumbersome. I think it's tough to run. Having run a paper in White Plains for quite a number of years. It's really tough to run a paper, to run a chain of that magnitude, I think, and to keep it all being economically effective, shall we say,
Yes, well,
I think is tough, very tough.
right. Well, what I would do is that the Journal News covers the Westchester County market. I believe it's the richest county in the United States. There are 1 million people in it. Their circulation has hit rock bottom. It's about its lowest ever stage, and we don't know exactly what the numbers are, but that it has been dropping like a rock the last 4 to 5 years. Now, they have concentrated on Rockland County and the upstate counties because there's, they think there's a lot more advertising up there, and I hope it's working for them, but people aren't reading them. So I would have to say they need to invest more on local staff in the major cities in Westchester, White Plains, Yonkers, Mount Vernon, Portchester, and also have an up-county reporter who works that area. But that's what I would do if they really wanted to make the Journal News viable.
I think that what they really need to do is basically take away the Journal News. I think that concept is all wet.
Mm-hmm.
They were better off when they had a White Plains paper, a New Rochelle paper, and a Yonkers paper, and even a Portchester paper.
Yeah, place you go into the office in that city and complain about something.
Well,
and they cover
but
it.
it's not simply complaining about something. It's concentrating the news. Now, they may not see that being as advertising advantageous, but I would say if they did that, they would get the circulation.
Mm-hmm.
There would be people that would read that local news. Yeah. And, you know, I think the White Plains Examiner seems to be doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And what the
well, they come out.
What?
But they come out.
Yeah.
Which is an indicator of that.
Yeah. The general consensus, I think, in the newspaper business is that the hometown local newspapers are the only ones that are able to hold on. You know, the Journal News really tries to be all news to all people.
Can't do that.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It doesn't work.
You have to have a hook.
And if they want to hire me as a consultant, I'll be happy to do it.
That's right. And what would it be about? Let's see, 10,000 an hour.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That could start there, right? So this remains to be seen, and of course their website has been changing about every 3 months or so. The Journal News website, and it's gotten to be such a hodgepodge of ads that they have to fix that. I don't go to a website to look at ads. I want news easily accessible. And what are you going to do? I mean, when the advertising people take over, real news dies hard, gets squeezed out. The advertising people know nothing about news, right? They don't.
Right.
No news sense. And now, let's go back to what Playland looks like on Monday, Veterans Day. I was down there, and that's the sun setting into the park, and that was really a great place. The weather felt great, but over in Venice it wasn't. This is what Venice looked like 3 weeks ago when I was there. This is the Doge's Palace in there, and as you can see, everything looks pretty calm and orderly, and it really was, and we had no idea of what awaited us when we stepped foot onto St. Mark's Square when we went to tour it. And it was just had a half a foot of water, and that is the area we're talking about. Doge's Palace right in the center, and St. Mark's just behind it. And then this week we had reports that showed this Venice, and that is what St. Mark's looked like on Tuesday, November 13th. How about that? That is the flood totals. There was 6 feet of water, and that is the most since 1966. And let's take a look at how this water has really affected this legendary city. This was what we had to do when we tried to get into St. Mark's Cathedral. People were walking on platforms above the water without railings, and it was not a pleasant experience. And there were children on it, and it was just not a good job of trying to get everybody in. They shut one of the doors to the cathedral, so it really affected whether or not we could get it or not. We wound up not being able to get into the legendary cathedral, and people were walking in waist-deep water. And next, let's take some more look. And that is another view of the Doge's Palace. We're right there on the right. And look at how that water is, folks. I mean, and we don't even know whether the buildings were accessible. Next slide. Let's keep rolling over. And next, this slide turns the corner to another environmental issue. Rockefeller Center got their Christmas tree. It was cut down up in Florida, New York. And when I saw that happening, it really hurt me that this magnificent 177-foot tall tree, truly magnificent, filled with pine cones, was just cut down just to provide decoration. They destroyed the tree.
Well,
and it got me from an environmental point.
I think that there was something that I heard that I don't know who it is that plants them, but they plant replacement trees left and right. And we have a situation in White Plains where we have a lot of large old trees. We have them on our block.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them should be torn down. They are dangerous. You get a storm, they're going to tear out electric power. And believe me, with the climate change that we're going through, that sort of thing is going to happen. Yeah. And as long as there's a program to plant replacement trees, I don't think that it's a problem.
Yeah, I just feel that that tradition of a real Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center, I found it distasteful. I think they should get some sort of tree, fake tree put up there, and then it's always there, and they just reinstall it every year, and a big tree that really helps the environment is not killed. And it just got me. I never thought of it before.
I think what I am saying, that environmentally, sometimes big trees have to be replaced.
So this was a very healthy tree. Didn't need to be.
It's not only healthy, it's big trees have to be replaced.
Yes, but it wasn't going to knock down any telephone wires. Okay? I'm just saying, that's the way it affected me. And now, speaking of environments, on Tuesday night at the Council of Neighborhood Associations, the effort for persons who know something about this, pollinating people, are lobbying to get neighborhood representatives to work to get more pollinating plants into our White Plains neighborhoods.
Well, it's not only pollinating. What they're trying to do is get native plants. They want only native plants printed. And when they opened the park next to the library, they were there with all their information, a lot of which I gathered. I haven't had time to read all of it yet. But I thought it was interesting. And that it would be nice to see people always planting native White Plains plants at their homes and things like that.
Yes, perhaps the plants with a low low stature, so they don't block your views when you're trying to make left turns. But now, environmental issue. We learned from some sources who should know that the French American School of New York apparently has turned the page and has no interest in building on Old Ridgeway Country Club. Now, this raises the question of if the courts, the appellate court in Brooklyn, throws out the suit, the last remaining suit standing in the way of the property, what will happen? Now, I raised the question, should the Common Council buy the property back? Do you think that's something they should?
I don't, financially, I don't know if it would make sense at this point because I don't know exactly how much they want for the property.
Well,
But
you figure they want at least 16 million.
Obviously, if they're selling to the city, they would certainly want a substantial profit.
Yes.
They spent over 10 years a heck of a lot of money,
Yes.
whether it's defending lawsuits or doing things that the city wanted. So I don't know if it would make
16 million at least. And
so I don't know if that would make any kind of economic sense.
either that or they could mount another suit against the city for losses. Now, as we speak, city officials are breaking ground for a second building at Winbrook, and here's approximately where the new building will be built. And there are 3 other buildings to go in the Winbrook building replacement, and hopefully they can build the other 3 a lot faster than they've gotten the second one going, you know. And but we will find out, I guess, what their plans are. Now, also in White Plains this week, the Service Employees International Union staged a rally in front of 1 to 3 Barker Avenue. David Buchwald, the assemblyman, is shown here at another rally in which he came out and supported the SEIU efforts to get a new contract from the Building Owners Association. And the essence is that SEIU, in their news release about this, Jim, said it's only a penny per square foot is what they're asking for, which I thought was very clever of them to break it down in that. Does that make sense to you, basing wage increases on square footage of the building? That way nobody pays the same. It pays an overall thing.
Yeah. I would have to study it more carefully, but I have no objection to them getting a raise. I think that, I don't know how much per hour they're making.
Well, it's $15, the minimum wage they get as a union employee. But what they've been doing is getting rid of the unions when there's been takeovers and hiring.
No, but I mean, what are these people getting now? Are they getting $15 an hour?
Where? Yeah. I believe they are.
The SEIU.
Yeah.
Well, I think they should get at least that, if not more.
Right. Very important service.
You know, I don't. The rate per square foot, that sounds like an awful small amount, a penny a square foot.
It sounds small. That's why they phrase it that way. But we will see. We'll learn more about this next week. Now, let's go to that Buchwald and slide again. This was when he was supporting the SEIU about, I believe, 2 months ago. And this week, he got a very valuable endorsement. Assemblywoman Amy Paulin endorsed him. Next picture, that's right, that's Amy Paulin on the right and Mr. Buchwald on the left in a file photo, as they say in the business. And what Ms. Paulin said was that the next member of Congress for Westchester and Rockland needs to be someone who is hardworking and focused on delivering for his constituents, deeply intelligent to get to the root of the serious challenges our nation faces, brave to take on hard fights, and has deep integrity. She said that having worked on issue after issue with him in the New York State Assembly, I am fully confident that David Buchwald will bring his talents and tenacity to bear on the issues we care passionately about as Democrats, from protecting women's rights to preserving our environment, from defending Israel to the repealing the attack on New York represented by the limits of the SALT deduction. I am proud to endorse my friend and colleague, David Buchwald, for Congress. And that is really a great endorsement for him, because people had thought that Ms. Paulin might want to run for that. But she is obviously has every confidence in Mr. Buchwald, and we will see who comes forward to really challenge. I don't know if David Carlucci has. I think Adrienne Fine has. I think that is her name. But we will see. Now,
Well,
yes,
I think
and you
Buchwald.
you have a. You just came from a big event this morning, and what was it? And it was big time.
Well, this is the Westchester Real Estate Awards Breakfast. This is the 32nd year that they're doing it for the March of Dimes. And among other things, they raised $140,000 right at the dinner from bids from the audience.
Right. Yeah, right.
And they honored 3 people. They honored Mark Weingarten, who is an attorney. They honored Martin G. Berger, and they honored, and Martin G. Berger is a real estate developer, and he got the real estate award. And Mark Weingarten got the Lifetime Achievement Award. It's the Martin S. Berger Award,
Yes.
different than Martin G. Berger,
Okay.
who got a different award. And the other awardee was for excellence in community development, and that was Joseph D. Roberto, who was the chairman and CEO and president of PCSB Bank. There were 675 people
At the
that
breakfast
attended.
this
Yes.
morning on Friday. We're taping on Friday morning.
They started at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
And it
it's
was-
a lot of people to get seated, right?
And so I got there pretty much on time, too, which I'm proud of.
Yeah, that is always a great achievement, right?
But it was, it's always a extremely well-attended breakfast, and it grows every year.
Why is the March of Dimes apparently the most supported?
Well, they support mothers who have problems with premature birth. And actually, there was somebody there that spoke that had a daughter who survived, and the guy spoke and told all about the medical history of it, more than his daughter had known about her birth and whatnot. And his daughter, his wife, came up afterwards, and the daughter is 15 years old. Her birthday was yesterday, so 600 and some odd people sang happy birthday to her. You know, it was a very, really emotional event. You know, some of the stuff that these people go through is heart-wrenching, and of course there.
And the March of Dimes has been working since they went to work on polio back in the 50s. and
So-
probably earlier than that. But now, of course, something else happened down in Washington this week. The impeachment hearings began. What's your reaction so far about these?
Well, I haven't been able to watch the actual hearings. You know, I don't really know what's going to happen because nobody knows what the Senate will do, except that right now they will not convict the
No.
president.
So why do it? That's the question. It's distracting to the Democrats formulating
Hey,
a
well,
comprehensive
I'm not,
campaign.
First of all, I think there's a lot of things that Trump has done besides this thing with the president of the Ukraine.
The DACA thing and the Ukraine thing. And I mean, it looks like DACA is going to have some sort of Solomon-esque decision from the Supreme Court, but you never know.
They want to end DACA. I think that's
It's over.
I think that's absolutely insane.
The judges should look in the mirror when they do that. Now, speaking of looking, let's take a look at the last really good day of summer we have had, and that was Veterans Day. This is Playland, and we'll just let you drink in the colors on the Playland Lake as we go out. It was so warm, and people were just enjoying themselves so much, and it showed you what summer was all about on Monday. And
We've certainly had a change, let me tell you.
And going out, we would like to point out that Aaron Wooden is interviewed on People to Be Heard this week. He is a computer expert with PC Ventures. He's been serving White Plains residents and businesses for 17 years, and he talks about the scams of the day, the computer problems of the day, what kind of computers you should be looking at, and the future of what computers are going to be like. It's the most interesting show. You interviewed it. What did you think of what our talk?
Well, I think that he's a very important element in computers.
Yeah.
People, the average person that has a computer really needs to have it inspected by somebody who's a real expert at least once a month, maybe more often than that.
Right.
And I deal with a fair amount of computers in my business, and I have an ongoing.
Well, Aaron really gives you the lowdown up to the minute on People to Be Heard at 7 o'clock Saturday, and also on www.wpcommunitymedia.org. John Bailey, Jim Benerofe, good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.